I'm 37. Married for 11 years. We have 2 kids, a 9-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old son. If you'd asked me a year ago, I would have told you I was one of the lucky ones. We weren't perfect, but we were solid. We laughed, we planned family trips, we argued sometimes but always made up before bed. We'd met in our mid-20s, and I fell hard for her. She had this way of looking at you like you were the only person in the room. She used to tell me, "You're my everything. My safe place." I believed her. I never had a reason not to. Then, little things started changing. She began going to the gym more often, which in itself isn't suspicious. She said she wanted to get in shape, and I was all for it. But soon, her schedule got weird. Evening workouts became late coffee with a friend. A few weekends she had girls' nights I wasn't invited to. At first I brushed it off. We'd been together so long, I trusted her completely. But sometimes she came home smelling of a cologne I didn't own. I told myself I was imagining it, that I was being paranoid. She got colder too. The warmth in her voice when she said my name wasn't there anymore. She stopped texting me during the day. When I tried to hold her hand on the couch, she'd move it away casually, like she was adjusting her sweater. I told myself it was stress. Maybe I wasn't doing enough at home. Maybe she needed space. I didn't know it then, but while I was rationalizing every red flag, she was already living another life, and I was just extra background in her story. It happened on a Thursday night. She told me she was going to her friend Claire's place to watch a movie and have wine. I didn't think much of it. Claire is married, has kids, and I've been to their place plenty of times. Around 10 p.m., I got a text from Claire's husband. It was casual. He was asking if I could send him a recipe I'd mentioned the week before. In passing, I said, "Hope the girls are having fun." His reply? "What girls?" I remember just staring at my phone, feeling this cold wave run down my back. I asked if Claire was home. He said yes, she'd been there all evening, and no, my wife wasn't with her. My stomach dropped. I tried calling my wife, no answer. Tried again, straight to voicemail. She came home around midnight, smelling faintly of alcohol and something else. Not wine. Something like men's deodorant. I asked her how the movie was. She didn't even flinch. She smiled, said good, and headed straight for the shower. That was the first moment I really thought, something's wrong. Something's seriously wrong. But still, I doubted myself. I told myself there had to be a reasonable explanation. And I wish I could say I confronted her right then. But I didn't. I swallowed it down. And that silence gave her the space to keep going. 2 weeks later, I was doing laundry. She had left her gym bag by the washing machine, and I figured I'd help her out. When I unzipped it, I found her workout clothes, damp and smelling faintly of sweat and something else, not perfume, not deodorant, but skin. In the side pocket, I found a small receipt from a coffee shop across town. 2 lattes. 1 pastry. The timestamp was the same evening she'd told me she was at spin class. I don't know why, but I googled the cafe. It was nowhere near her gym. Nowhere near Claire's place either. When she got home, I casually asked how her spin class went. She said it was tough but worth it, and immediately changed the subject. That night, while she was in the shower, her phone lit up on the nightstand. A message preview from a number not saved in her contacts. "Same time tomorrow? Miss you already?" My chest tightened. I felt heat in my ears, my hands shaking. I didn't open it, I just stared at the screen until it went dark again. When she came out, I looked at her differently. She smiled like nothing was wrong. And I smiled back, because I wasn't ready to let her know I was starting to see the truth. It was a Saturday. She told me she was going to a weekend fitness workshop, and wouldn't be back until late afternoon. I decided to take the kids to the park, grab some lunch, make a day of it. While the kids were on the swings, I scrolled through my phone and opened Instagram. I don't even know why, but I clicked on the location tag for that coffee shop from the receipt. And there she was, in the background of someone else's post, sitting at a table outside, leaning in close to a man I'd never seen before. She was smiling in a way I hadn't seen in months. That soft, warm smile she used to give me. His hand was on hers. They looked comfortable. Like this wasn't new. I zoomed in until the pixels blurred. My stomach turned so hard I thought I'd be sick. I had the kids with me, so I swallowed it down and forced myself to push them on the swings, laugh when they laughed, act like nothing inside me had shattered. That night, when she came home, I asked how the workshop went. She sighed dramatically, said she was exhausted, and just wanted to shower and sleep. I nodded. I didn't tell her what I'd seen. Not yet. Because I knew now, without a doubt, that I had to catch her in a way she couldn't twist. I knew confronting her too soon would backfire. She was good at turning things around, making me feel like I was overreacting. I'd seen her do it in small arguments, twist the facts, act hurt, and suddenly I'd be apologizing for something she'd done. So I waited. I started paying closer attention. I noticed patterns. The late gym nights were always on Tuesdays and Thursdays. The girls' nights fell on the same Saturdays every month. I decided to test it. One Thursday, I told her I'd have to work late. In reality, I left the office early and parked 2 blocks away from her gym. She walked out 20 minutes later, not in workout clothes, but in the same dress she'd worn to work, hair freshly brushed, lipstick darker than in the morning. She got into her car and drove right past me, not even glancing in my direction. I followed. She didn't go to the cafe this time. She went to a small hotel on the edge of town, the kind with curtained windows and a discreet parking lot. A man was already waiting outside. They hugged like lovers. He kissed her. And she didn't hesitate. I sat there, engine off, hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles ached. It felt like my entire body was vibrating. In that moment, I wasn't guessing anymore. I wasn't doubting. I knew. And knowing hurt far worse than suspecting ever did. I waited until the kids were asleep. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it might break through my chest. She was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone. I stood there for a moment, just looking at her, the woman I'd built my life with, the mother of my children, the person I thought I knew better than anyone. "I saw you," I said quietly. She looked up, frowning. "Saw me where?" "At the hotel. With him." There was a split second, barely noticeable, where her face froze. But then she laughed. Actually laughed. "Are you serious? You're following me now? God, you're paranoid. Do you have any idea how crazy you sound?" I told her I wasn't guessing. I'd been there. I'd seen them kiss. Her expression shifted. She put her phone down, leaned back, crossed her arms. "If you've been feeling insecure, maybe you should have just said so instead of stalking me like some jealous teenager." Every word felt like a knife. She wasn't apologizing. She wasn't denying it outright. She was making me the problem. When I didn't respond, she sighed dramatically. "You know what? I've been unhappy for a long time. You're never really here for me emotionally. Maybe if you paid more attention, I wouldn't have to find comfort somewhere else." That was the moment I realized she'd been rewriting the story in her head for months, maybe years, until I was the villain and she was the victim. And the worst part? Some small, broken part of me almost believed her. After that night, she acted like I had betrayed her. She told me I was controlling, obsessive, and creating problems where there weren't any. She said I was damaging the kids by acting paranoid and bringing toxic energy into the house. When I tried to talk about what I'd seen, she'd roll her eyes and walk away, muttering things like, "You're imagining things," or, "That's not how it happened." And I started to question myself. I'd replay the hotel parking lot in my head, the way they hugged, the kiss, and think maybe it wasn't what it looked like. Maybe I'm exaggerating. She got more affectionate at times, almost like she was trying to reset me. She'd make my favorite dinner, laugh at my jokes again, touch my arm as she passed. For a moment I'd think, she's still here. We can fix this. But then, the next week, she'd vanish for yoga, and come home smelling of that same unfamiliar cologne. It was like being stuck in a loop, moments of warmth pulling me back in, followed by cold lies that I couldn't prove without looking like a madman. And deep down, I knew she wasn't trying to save our marriage. She was buying time. Time to keep living her other life while convincing me I was losing my mind. It was a Tuesday night, one of her gym nights. The kids were in bed, and I was pacing the living room like a caged animal. My chest hurt. My thoughts wouldn't stop spinning. I realized I was living in two parallel realities. In one, I was the paranoid husband who needed to work on his trust issues. In the other, I was the betrayed man who knew his wife was lying to his face. And I couldn't survive in both anymore. When she came home that night, she was humming to herself, scrolling through her phone. She barely looked at me when she said, "Don't stay up too late." Something inside me just snapped. I couldn't keep playing the fool. The next day, I called an old friend who worked in private security. We weren't close, but I trusted him. I told him I needed help, not to spy on her out of jealousy, but to get the truth I could no longer deny. He didn't judge. He just said, "You deserve to know what's real." That Friday, we set up a plan. If she left for the gym again, he'd follow. Discreetly. No drama, no confrontation, just facts. I didn't realize it then, but this was the point where my marriage had already ended. I was just waiting for the proof to bury it. 2 days later, my phone buzzed. It was my friend. No greeting, no small talk, just a text that said, "Call me. I have what you need." My hands went cold. I stepped outside, heart pounding, and called. He didn't sugarcoat it. "I followed her tonight. She didn't go to the gym. She went to the same hotel you told me about. The guy met her in the parking lot, they kissed, they went inside together. I've got photos. Timestamps. Everything." I don't know how long I stood there, phone pressed to my ear, staring at nothing. It was like my body was frozen but my mind was on fire. When he sent the pictures, I opened them one by one. There she was, my wife, laughing as he held her face in his hands. There she was, arms around his neck, looking at him like he was her whole world. The same way she used to look at me. And it wasn't just the kiss. It was the way they moved together. Like this was routine. Like they belonged to each other. There was no more doubt. No more. Maybe I'm wrong. She'd been living another life for months. And I'd been nothing but the backup plan, the man who paid the bills, tucked the kids in, and waited for her to come home smelling of someone else's cologne. I didn't cry. Not then. I just felt this strange calm. The kind that comes right before a storm. I waited until the kids were at my sister's for the weekend. I didn't want them anywhere near what was about to happen. When she came home Saturday afternoon, I was sitting at the kitchen table with my phone in front of me. No TV, no music, just silence. She walked in, paused, and gave me that guarded look. "What's going on?" I slid the phone across the table. The screen showed one of the photos, her and him, kissing in the hotel parking lot. Her face strained of color. For a moment, she just stared at it. Then she laughed, a short, nervous sound. "So you've been spying on me now?" I didn't say a word. I swiped to the next photo. And the next. She finally dropped the act. Her eyes narrowed. "Fine. Yes. I've been seeing him. And before you start with your righteous speech, maybe ask yourself why. You've been absent for years. You don't make me feel alive anymore." Her voice got louder, sharper. She accused me of being emotionally unavailable. Of making her feel alone in her own home. It was surreal, sitting there with proof of her betrayal, and still somehow being painted as the one who'd failed. I told her I'd loved her. That I still loved her, God help me. That I would have done anything to fix what was broken if she just told me. She shrugged. You're too late. And in that moment, I knew there was nothing left to fight for. The days that followed were a blur. I went through the motions, work, kids, dinners, but inside I felt hollow. Every room in the house reminded me of what was gone. Her laughter in the kitchen, the way she'd brush her hair behind her ear, the little notes she'd leave on the fridge. All replaced by silence and shadows. I kept replaying our life together, trying to find the moment it all slipped away. Was it the first time she came home late? The first lie? Or was it something deeper, something I never saw coming? The worst part was the silence between us. She stopped coming to family dinners, stopped talking about the kids. I wasn't sure if she hated me, or if she was just numb. At night, I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, asking myself if I'd missed signs, if I could have saved us. But the truth was clear, she had already left, long before I knew. And me? I was left holding the pieces of a life I thought we were building together, alone. The hardest part wasn't the betrayal itself, it was the quiet aftermath. The house felt empty, even when the kids were around. Their questions were innocent, but every "Mommy's not here" felt like a fresh wound. I kept wondering how to be both a father and a broken man. Some days, I barely recognized myself in the mirror. Tired eyes, slumped shoulders, a heart that felt like it was dragging behind me. I tried to hold on to the love I had for her, the years we shared, the dreams we had. But that love was tangled in pain and confusion. Friends told me to move on, to find someone new, to rebuild. But how do you rebuild when you don't know if the foundation was ever real? I started going to therapy, not because I wanted to forget, but because I needed to learn how to live with this. To be present for my kids, to love myself again, and maybe, someday, to trust again. Slowly, the pieces started to shift. Therapy gave me tools to breathe when panic threatened to take over. Friends became more than just distractions, they became anchors. I realized I wasn't just a victim of her choices. I was still me. Still a father, a man with hopes and fears, capable of healing. The hardest part was forgiving myself for loving her so fiercely, even when she didn't deserve it. But that love had taught me something, about trust, about pain, about the kind of person I wanted to be moving forward. I began setting boundaries, finding new routines with the kids, and most importantly, learning to be honest with myself about what I needed. It wasn't a clean break. There were days of anger, and days of deep sadness. But through it all, I was reclaiming my life piece by piece. One morning, I woke up and realized I hadn't thought about her for hours. Not because I was pretending, but because I was truly present in the moment. The kids and I started doing little things together, baking, bike rides, even movie nights. Their laughter filled the house again, and with it came a fragile hope. I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. Trust doesn't rebuild overnight. But I was ready to try, not for her, but for myself and my children. I started opening myself to new possibilities, small moments of joy that reminded me life goes on, even after heartbreak. I still carry the scars, and maybe I always will. But those scars tell a story, one of survival, growth, and the quiet strength that comes from facing the darkest truths. Looking back, I never imagined I'd be the guy whose marriage falls apart from betrayal. But life doesn't always follow the script we write for ourselves. If I could give one piece of advice to anyone going through what I did, it would be this: don't let anyone gaslight you into doubting your reality. Trust your instincts. Don't silence your pain to keep peace. Love is powerful, but it's not enough if it's one-sided. You deserve honesty. You deserve respect. Healing takes time, sometimes longer than you want, but it's possible. You can rebuild. You can find peace and even joy again. And most importantly, don't lose yourself trying to hold on to someone who's already left. To anyone out there in the middle of the storm, it gets better. You are stronger than you think.